Hello everybody, this is Miranda the Hybrid again. I know this is a double Art Talk Thursday, but there's something that I really want to go over. So one of you, my students or YouTube followers, sent me a video from TikTok of a girl or person who likes tracing. They have a complex 3D modeling system where they take a model they did not make, they pose it, and they trace it, and then they just draw their character over it. You wanted to know my opinion on that. So buckle up, because it's not going to be a popular one. When it comes to tracing like that, I disagree with it. 1. You don't hone your hand-eye coordination when you trace. 2, and a big one, you train yourself to get a high-quality reward with very little practice. And that can be damaging to anybody, especially people trying to learn to draw in the first place. If you can just trace and get something that somebody with 30 years of experience can do, then why would you put effort into anything at all in life? Number 3. You don't learn your anatomy, which is extremely important for an artist. 4, you don't learn perspective, which is again extremely important for an artist. Five, you're stuck with what you trace, which means if you ever need to make an adjustment or push a pose or anything, you're going to have to go back and change your original 3D model, which is a mess, and it'll take you longer. This also means that since the figure is very accurate, you may think that it's readable, but sometimes it's not readable, because you might be able to trace something, but a younger artist or a person who doesn't have that much experience might not be that good at shading or lighting or coloring. So they might have a very accurate looking figure that's not colored properly, so it becomes muddled. That's called pose readability, babies. Number 6. If you're stuck in a situation where you don't have your technology with you and you don't have the 3D model, you are going to find yourself severely handicapped and very frustrated, which is not something that's good for somebody who's trying to be an artist. There's so many situations that this applies to. What if you get a job? What if you're really good and you get hired to do something, but they want you to work on their computers? And you don't have access to that 3D model that you've been using? Or what if you just want to sketch? What if you and your friends are sketching together? You're going to begin relying on that technology instead of just using it to help you, and that's very bad. And 7, not necessarily my biggest point, but a point that's very, very important to consider. If you get used to tracing something, you might start tracing other people's art. I'm not saying you directly, but some people might start thinking, oh, well, I'm having difficulty with this style. Hey, that person on Instagram, they have a really good art style, and I might need to just, maybe I'll just trace it. But that's called plagiarism. That's bad. I've said this to you guys before, but I've put 20 years of my life to getting to where I am artistically and skill level-wise. I am 25 right now. I've been drawing seriously since I was 5 years old. What did I do when I was a teenager? I did real-life studies. I started looking at people on the internet and learning how they did things. I watched tutorials. I read books. I drew from books. I think I put 10 hours a week into just sketching in the sidelines of my notebooks. I drew hands all the time, and eyes. I mean, let's be real, we all drew eyes in high school. When I was 13, my dad gave me a book of Leonardo da Vinci's sketches. I took it up into my room, I looked at it, realized that I had so far to go, and I began using his studies to improve my own art. I might be talented, but what you are seeing, it's 20 years of skill. It's a lot of hard work. And you know what it's done for me? It's made me resourceful. It's made me resilient. It's made me a very, very hard-working person who's not deterred by setbacks and mistakes. If I don't know how to do something, I research it and I learn. This is part of the character building of becoming an artist, becoming any sort of skilled work person. All that hard work you put in makes you a really tough, smart, cool human being. Now, I know I just bashed tracing. I do think there are certain times that are appropriate for tracing. Let me go over them. 1, when a client isn't paying you a lot. I've had to trace a few times when somebody really wanted something nice, but they weren't paying me a lot of money, but I really needed the money. So I kind of just took the portrait or whatever and I gave it a quick trace. I'm not talking about tracing every single detail, just to get the facial layout to make sure that, it looks like the person I'm trying to replicate. 2, when a client isn't giving you a lot of time. Again, same kind of situation. 3, you're working on a project that doesn't pay and it's your own personal baby. Actually, for those of you who read my webtoon, there are 2 instances of tracing in the webtoon itself. Bruh. 1, I traced my Miata, and 2, I traced this hand. I try to get one of these chapters done a month, but considering everything else I'm juggling, it can be hard. So I was like, I want this to work really well. I want this to look accurate, and I traced it. I'll be completely open and frank. That was not drawn from my head. It would have taken me 5 or 6 times longer to do something like that from my head, and I don't have the time for that, especially when nobody's paying me. And then 4, the biggest one and the most legitimate one, practice. You can trace for practice. In a lot of my college classes, they had us trace things. Like, for instance, tracing a figure, like tracing a photograph of a human person doing something, so that you can put in the bones and muscles and understand how the muscle activation works. 2, learning a new shape. Like, what if, you know that stupid S that we all drew when we were, like, in elementary school? I mean, you probably traced that at one point. Or if you need to trace a new triangle, or, I don't know, you're learning perspective. Frick, there's so many different situations where you need to trace shapes to learn them. Maybe you're trying to learn a new style, like anime or caricature. In that situation, if you're learning and you're not going to publish it and say, this is mine, I created it, then yeah, trace it. So in general, if you're learning and trying to put in the effort to get better at something, tracing's okay. Also of note, before somebody asks me, using photographs in the background of your pictures is also okay. It's called photo collage and photo manipulation. It is literally an art form that is completely fine. Many, many, many professional artists and concept artists actually use photographs in their background, or as like, they'll cut out a picture of a plant that they took and turn it into a brush and go blah, 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 to make foreground or something. That's fine. The trick is, though, that it's either their picture or they licensed it for money. So using photos in your art is totally cool. Just make sure, A, you took that picture and it's your own reference, or B, you got it from a Creative Commons site where everybody can use that particular photo, or you got it from some sort of stock photo site like Deposit Photos and you bought it. I actually have like 3 or 4 stock photo sites and stock sound sites like SoundSnap that I plug like $30 in and I can get 100 downloads of pictures. I have to do it for my clients sometimes. Like, this is considered photo collage. I got these pictures off of depositphoto.com and I put it together to make this book cover. Like, that is literally a form of art that people will pay you for. And that's fine. Just make sure you paid for it or it's yours. Now, obviously, I can't stop you from tracing if you really want to do it, because I'm just here as a mentor of sorts trying to tell you what I personally think is right and wrong. If you do decide to trace, there are 3 things you need to know. 1, please credit the 3D model in your description, or else you are going to be deceiving people into thinking that you are better at drawing than you actually are. And that will make other people who actually put a lot of effort into things really, really upset. They'll think they're not doing well enough. They'll see, imagine a 13 or 14-year-old who's really, really trying to draw their anatomy, and they see another 13 or 14-year-old on Instagram or wherever drawing these amazing figures, and they don't know that that person is tracing. That person who's actually putting effort into learning what they're trying to learn is going to feel really sucky. They're not going to feel like they're talented. They're not going to feel like they're putting in enough work. You might actually be emotionally damaging other artists and making life harder for them if you decide to trace and not tell people that you're tracing. And you should be ashamed of that. Total mom moment. I don't care if you're upset. You should be ashamed. The second thing, if you're tracing from a photo, and if it's not for a client, if it's just public art, just make a little note that, yeah, this photo reference was used, or kind of traced this quickly. Here, wait. Here, I will be open. I traced this face. This is one of my favorite pictures that I've ever done. It's me when I still had hair. And I actually did trace the face and the hair. A quick outline just to make sure I had things down, because I wanted to be as physically accurate to me as I wanted to. So yes, I did not draw this from the top of my head. I traced a photograph, a reference picture I took of myself. See? That easy. You just have to say it. I know that there's like this thing that people have that, oh my god, tracing from a photo is bad, but you also want to be really, really good. And you know, tracing from a photo makes you look really, really good if you don't tell people that you did it. But in the end, it's better for your soul if you actually just put the practice in. Which leads me to my third point about if you actually do decide to trace. It's a kind of rebuttal. Practice and skill should be rewarded. It's one of the things that builds character and makes us human, not robots. Robots trace. There are bunches of programs that trace. Humans practice and achieve. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This was a grumpy, angry Miranda artist mentor. I know this is probably not going to be a popular opinion. I know some of you are going to be grumpy, but I want to energize you. I want you to hear this and say, you know what? It's okay to suck. And that's also another thing. You don't have to be good. Seriously, you do not have to be a good artist. I was not a good artist when I was younger. I sucked. It happens to everybody. And sucking, you know what? I don't like using the term bad artist. You are an inexperienced artist. You are not a bad artist. I am not a bad artist because I've been doing for 20 years. But if you took me at year 4, I would have been a bad artist because I didn't have the experience and the skill and the practice. So don't ever be embarrassed about what you create. If you actually saw the art talk I posted a little bit earlier, you'll see this same theme repeated. You are fine. You do not have to be the ultimate power artist with skill. You're allowed to be a little bit less skilled than you want to. People put way, way, way too much weight on being good at things. For instance, I play the electric guitar. I'm not a guitar god. I just enjoy doing it. And you know what? I love being bad at it. Because it means there's so much potential for me to improve. There's so much potential for me to be practicing. Dang it, got it wrong. Then I got it right. And that progress should energize you. So be happy that you suck right now. Be happy that you're inexperienced. Because that means there's so much of a road to go on to get better and better. The product is not the most important thing. Not only in art, but in life. It's the journey to get there. And the emotion, the drive, the frustration that it gives you. Use that frustration to get yourself better. And remember, don't trace without telling people. Goodbye!